Good Lord, folks, it feels like it's been about 3 to 4 episodes since we talked about the Wheel of Time, and yet it's actually only been a week. So buckle in, make yourself comfortable, use the bathroom if you need to, because it's time for Just Another Fanboy, episode number 227, The Wheel of Time, Season 1, Part 2. Hello and welcome to another tongue-twisting episode of Just Another Fanboy. I'm your host, my name is Steven, and it's below freezing, folks. Right now, just outside my window, temperatures have dropped to below freezing. Not that that's relevant in any way to the subject of today's episode. I'm just telling you that it's cold outside. Winter ain't coming, folks. It's freaking here. All right, enough messing around. My head is too much into the old Just Another Fanboy episodes. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm going to be getting back to a lot of the silliness. Anyway, last week on episode number 223, I played the first half of a conversation that I had with indie nerdcore rapper and super nice guy, Sulfur, in which the main subject at hand was Season 1 of the Wheel of Time series that's currently streaming over on Amazon Prime. And frankly, I thought we'd get back to it today. What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Are you in? Hold on, let's do this. We got to see the Tuathalan. Boy, I tell you what, that scene where they encounter the freaking White Cloaks. Mm-hmm. And at first, it's like the Tuathalan's like, you're not getting past us. And they all link arms. And I was like, oh, Lord, this is going to be really lame. The White Cloaks are going to be like, oh, well, I guess we can't get by you. No, they just start smacking them down. They do a really good job of making us hate the White Cloaks. Absolutely. Really good job of that in this show.
Absolutely. You know, there's three things here that I think are personified so well. Two different scenes, but with three main points. One is in that scene. It really shows both the Tuathalan and the White Cloaks and really crystallizes who they are really sharp, you know, because the Tuathalan it's not like they're going to lay down and let them take Perrin and Egwene, but what can they really do, you know? But they do everything they can up to the Way of the Leaf to prevent that, including Arm getting them out as fast as possible, as much as he could. You know, and of course the White Cloaks just being absolutely evil as they are. But, you know, what about that earlier scene when they first run into the White Cloaks and the division in between, I don't know what you would call the other side. On the one side is the Inquisitors, you know, but just say the ground troops, because I'm at a loss for what to say. But, you know, the fact of, oh, no, that's beneath the Inquisitors in terms of handling the Trollocs and whatnot, in terms of the White Cloaks themselves as well, just showing a little bit of even division there in terms of, you know, where they're at. I really loved all those, all the way down, honestly, to the costumes. I love the White Cloak costumes.
Yep.
So good.
Yep. And they're really good about, it's like, okay, so we have basically these two different departments within the White Cloaks. You got your soldiers, and then you got they actually called them questioners on the show.
Questioners,
in the book.
That's it.
Yeah, the book, because they were like the Inquisitors of the Light or something, but everybody referred to them as the questioners, but they didn't like being called the questioners. That was not so for him to refer to them as questioners, I thought that was kind of funny. But it's like you've got the regular White Cloaks who are already pretty bad guy. We don't like them because they are willing to do what they need to do in this cause that they, you know, this belief of theirs. But then you have the frickin' questioners that at least these other guys, they even tell Moraine, it's like, we don't have anything to do with Aes Sedai, but find one. They're the only ones that can heal that wound. And we're going to go to this area and try to defend these people against the Trollocs. But the questions are like, nah, we're not going to do any of that. We're going to go hunt down Aes Sedai and kill him. That's what we do, you know? And so it's like the White Cloaks are bad enough, but the questioners are even worse. So, I really enjoyed the White Cloaks.
I did too. I feel like they did a lot with the White Cloaks in just a few scenes that they had them in. Even just thinking about it in the context of this conversation, think about how much traction that gives them in the story. It really cements where they are. It cements divisions within them. Oh man, it's done so well. And I couldn't possibly hate them anymore. I don't know if there's anybody I hate more in the Wheel of Time right now. I hate them more than Pod and Fane. So
right. I was really expecting to see more of Pat and Fane in the series. I was honestly, as I was listening to book one and thinking I would be thinking, okay, how are they going to do this in the show? How are we going to see this in the show? And I was almost developing series one in my head or season one in my head just based off of that first book. And I figured we're going to have a Pat and Fane episode. And we're going to see him traveling with the Trollocs and the Myrddraal, and the way they treat him in the book, at first is, I think they throw him in a cook pot and that's where he sleeps and stuff like that. Cause then eventually he gets the dagger and then he becomes basically the BA of the Shadow Spawn. And so I was really expecting a lot of that. But I did enjoy how they just kind of hint at Pod and Fane, and, that, throughout the series, you get a little bit of him in the first episode. You get a couple of quick glimpses of him here and there throughout the season, and then he shows up right at the end. And I really like that, because I think people who haven't read the book, they're going to be like, wait a minute, that's Pat and Fane. He was just sitting at that table right over there, and I'm looking forward to more of him. I think the guy that they got playing him is wonderful.
So good.
And
so good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to season 2. It sucks that what are we gonna have to wait a whole year? Because that's the way that stuff works.
Yeah, unfortunately, probably more. I don't think there's anything official out yet, but the last things I read was that Amazon's going to try and give Lord of the Rings a proper push, which it probably should. Yeah. But I think this year is going to be the year of Lord of the Rings. I don't think we will see it this year, so it would probably be a 2023 thing for season 2. It's my guesstimation. Let's say nothing concrete. I was
also, they're trying to give these hints throughout the season. Who could be the Dragon Reborn? And they have Nynaeve throwing out that big burst of power at the end of the one episode and heals everybody in the room. And Matt and the dagger, is they don't. That is the one thing I did like about how they changed Matt. They don't even, you see him take the dagger, but you don't get really any information at all until Moiraine meets up with him. That what is happening to him could possibly be because of the dagger. I'm sure people were thinking it, the hints were kind of there, but they were trying to push you more toward whatever is going on with Matt could be because he can wield the one power and he's going crazy because of it. Sure. And the whole time it's because of the dagger. I really like that, because in the book you knew right away because he had that dagger and they were not supposed to, they were given the warning, don't take anything from Shadar Logoth and all that, but they didn't really they didn't even meet Mordeith in the show, did they? Yeah. So
Shadar Logoth happened way differently.
Yeah. It was And Moiraine was out the whole time. I like that the only reason they went into Shadar Logoth is because Lan made them. It's like, I don't know what else to do. So this is where we're going to go. She's unconscious. We're going to have to go there. And he tells them all what the place is. And Matt, it was really funny. He goes, okay, first, I think that's the most you've talked all day, probably your whole life. I really like that.
Oh, it was perfect. Lan was very much like dad when mom is unexpectedly away. Like, what do I do with these kids? We'll go to McDonald's, going out there. I think that's a perfect example of kind of what I was touching on right at the beginning when I was, saying my few little nitpicks talking about pacing. I think Shadar Logoth happened a little too fast in terms of that dagger and Matt picking it up. I mean, that happened really quick, and I don't need Mordeith to be there for it to be proper, but for him to wake up in just this ghost city in the middle of the night and say, I'm going to go for a stroll. I'm going to open this case, even if it was speaking to him and kind of calling to him, it felt a little fast. But the one thing I do really, really like about this is, obviously in books you have internal monologue, and a very easy way to convey that internal monologue. And so in the books, when we're reading these, we know about Matt. We know about parent talking to wolves. We know all these things because we have that internal monologue. And you see all these different devices and ways to convey that in film, in shows. And what I like is they're not really attempting much of that, actually. And I like that. I like that, with Perrin, something's going on with him and wolves, but in the show, it's still not defined what that is. Yeah. A watcher of the show still doesn't know that he's actually talking to these wolves in his mind, that he can, kind of communicate with them in that way. A watcher of the show might suspect something going on with Matt, particularly if they're a student watching, but you don't really understand exactly what's happening. I like that.
All they know is that he's got some kind of connection with wolves. Mm-hmm. And that Moraine says, don't tell anybody about it because the Reds may kill him. Exactly. It has nothing to do with the one power. I think she does mention that. Yes. But I do hope we do get some, in the next season of seeing him actually communicating with the wolves, because heck, Hopper is one of my favorite characters in the books, and he's Absolutely. Just a freaking wolf in his dreams, So, sure. and I mean, that Hopper's an established character. I mean, here's a wolf that as a cub would see the eagles flying and wanted to fly and would jump up in the air. And so he or she, I can't remember if it was male or female, but was named Hopper. And and that they call him Young Bull. And
exactly.
They don't, I hope we get some of that. If we don't, we don't. I mean, we've got his yellow eyes. We know he has some kind of connection with them, but maybe in the next season he will meet Elias, and then some of that, more of that will come out. So instead of Elias being in the book where that's kind of when he started communicating with wolves, it'll be more like he doesn't understand what's going on until he meets Elias, and then somebody else like him that can do this, and then he can learn a little bit more and whatnot. But
absolutely, that's kind of my season 2 predictions, and I would like to ask you what yours are as well. But I do think a lot of people think Elias is just not going to be included in the show, and maybe he won't be. But I think Elias could very easily be worked into season 2, and could, retroactively kind of explain things a little bit, and that would be really, really strengthen it. In my opinion, I think that would be really good. You could introduce Hopper and maybe some of those conversations, but I also think season 2 is going to combine the second and the third book and finish out the trilogy of the first 3 within 2 seasons. I really think they could do both the Stone of Tyr, and is it the Battle of Faldara? Is it right over there, or is it? I might be getting my places mixed up. The Shan-Chan.
Yeah, book 2 is the Shan-Chan.
Yeah.
Because at the end of book 1, of course, they all go to the Eye of the World. And that's where they get the Horn of Valier. They take it back to Faldara, where Padden Fane is a prisoner. And we find out that one of the Faldarans is a dark friend, lets all these Trollocs and whatnot into Faldara. They rescue Padden Fane, they steal the horn, and then that's when Rand and Matt and Perrin with Uno and Massima and that other dude, Ingtar, then they go after the horn, and it ends with them wherever that is, way down there, and with battling the Shan-Chan, and that's when he has the big fight with somebody, and it's shown in he's the Dark One, and it's shown in the sky, and everybody knows that the dragon has been reborn, and I've just started book 3, so I'm not.
Got you. You read it more recently than I have. Dan, how does the Great Hunt? I know how it ends, but I'm getting my Wheel of Time locations mixed up. Where does it end? Where does Rand battle the Shan-Chan? Where does Matt use the horn?
I'm trying to think of the name of that place. Toman's Head is where he was to meet. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is outside of one of the big cities, and I just can't remember the name of the city where the Shan-Chan is basically. That's where they've invaded, and that's where they have set their seat of power for the time being. And
exactly,
Egwene gets captured by the freaking Damani. She becomes a Damani, and that's some good stuff.
It is. So I think both of those things. I think Toman's Head. I think the Stone of Tyr are going to be in the next season, and I could even see it be swapped in terms of order. I could see the Stone of Tear happen before Tommen's Head, just because the Shan-Chan were introduced as like the very last thing in the 8th episode. I feel like defeating them makes sense to be the very last thing for season 2. And they looked awesome. It was cool.
Yeah,
like
that was cool.
I almost like, the way, for lack of other words, I think they're referred to as leashes, but the leashes being more around like the mouth and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's such a dehumanizing thing, no matter how you put it. It does kind of emphasize their control of these people.
It's like they're not only leashed, they're muzzled.
Exactly. I mean, they just absolutely really dehumanize anybody that can channel. Shan-Chan are pretty atrocious, honestly. We all know that, but the viewer doesn't know that yet. They will find that out very quickly if they haven't, from that poor little girl who decided to. Right. What was she doing? Getting seashells or collecting crabs?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It was excessive.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I think is going to happen in the next season. I think those two big moments there, we're going to see Matt's 3rd book arc. I'm really excited about it. I think it can be pulled together really nice and then set it up perfectly for shifting and going into the wasteland and dealing with the Aiel in season 3. Fingers crossed. So,
yeah, I'm hoping for season 2 that we'll meet some of the Forsaken, because we should have met them when they went to the Eye of the World, but of course that happened. That unfolded completely differently.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Way different than how I did in the book, because it was just Moraine and Rand instead of the whole group. And a lot of book 2, because there is a lot of book 2 that they don't need to include in the show. Because there's a point, because ultimately it's a big part of the book is them trying to get the Horn of Valir back, and then Rand gets separate. Rand and Loyal and what is the name of the sniffer?
I know you're talking about
Huron.
Yes.
Huron. They fall asleep next to that portal stone. They go into an alternate universe, and that's where they meet Lanfear, but she doesn't, she goes by Selene. And then, so there's a lot of that they don't necessarily have to include. I think they're going to introduce Selene.
Yes.
I know we know that they're going to introduce Elaine and Queen Morghese in the 2nd season, because they've cast them.
Yes.
So how that's going to happen, I don't. Is Rand going to stop by, Caemlyn while they're hunting for the horn, or because we know they did have frickin' Padden Fane take the horn with them, so we know they're going to go chase it down.
Sure.
But how are we going to be introduced to Elaine? Is it going to be in Caemlyn, or is it going to be when she comes to Tar Valon?
I think it's going to be the latter, personally.
I think so, yeah. It's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, and part of the reason I say that, I'm basing it off of a quote from Rafe. Clearly I read way too many interviews with this guy because I'm so jazzed about it. But, he mentioned one of the reasons that they didn't meet in Caemlyn as they do in Eye of the World in the show is because it would have broke their budget. When you think about Caemlyn and the way it's described in the books, it's pretty much one of the grandest cities in that world. And to think about having to do some of those scenes, I could see that breaking their budget. So it does make sense to maybe bring Elaine in a little later. I hate to say it, but I actually forgot about Kieran as a character. And when you mentioned him and mentioned the sniffer, this idea just popped in my head. I haven't really rolled it through my brain very much, but from a showrunner's perspective and the idea of condensing, what about the idea of, just kind of mashing up the characters of Kieran and Elias? That's a perfect way to still include Elias in the story, and can be done in season 2, and introduce Perrin to Elias that way, because Perrin is right there with the sniffer. He's right there with Kieran, and he's just pretending it's something different.
It's Huron.
Huron,
with an H.
Apologies.
Huron, like lake, almost like Lake Huron, but it's Huron. Hurin. But there's. Well, no, it's okay. I don't want the listeners. It's Huron. What are you doing? But in that, because in that book too, when Huron and Rand and Loyal fall asleep next to that portal stone, well, Ingtar and the rest still need to go after the horn, and Perrin, using the wolves, can still track them. And Inktar, who leads the force, he knows about this, but he's like, we'll just tell everybody else that you're a sniffer. And, they could easily say, all right, well, Huron and, meld those two characters. And the reason he's a sniffer is because he's using the wolves to help find stuff. So, yeah, they could easily do that.
I think that would be wonderful.
Let's send an email off to Rafe and let him know we figured it out.
Get that reply way ahead of you, bud.
See that? Yeah. Done. It's already done. Come on, guys. We're working on season 4. We're writing season 4 right now.
Oh man, I hope.
Yeah, but
I hope it gets to go at least 8 seasons. I could go for 10 seasons, but
I do too. It's whenever I would see, I don't follow a lot of like the Twitter time stuff. So the reactions I've been seeing online are from the people that I just regularly follow on Twitter or on Facebook.
Sure.
And it's like if the people who have read the books seem to really enjoy it. They have nitpicks every now and then because, you can't be a diehard fan of something and not complain about when something's changed.
Sure.
But a lot of the folks that I know online that have watched it, that have never read the books, they didn't seem to like it very much. And so that got me kind of worried. I don't know how. I feel like I read somewhere that people are responding to the show positively. It is people are really enjoying the show. So I think it's just a few folks that I think the person who I know online who said they weren't enjoying the show also tried to start reading the books, and they got a few chapters in and was like, this is a slog. This is not, and it's, if you're going to read the first book of a freaking 14-book series, don't expect it to be quickly paced. That's one of the things I like about those books so much, is because there's so much in them. You just really get time to develop these characters and get to know them. But this, a lot of people anybody, and again, we're going to do a Game of Thrones comparison, but if you even just compare the books, the Song of Ice and Fire or whatever it's called, to the Wheel of Time, the Wheel of Time books almost come from a different generation of how sprawling fantasy books were written.
Sure.
There is still some of that old school Lord of the Rings type of thought process behind world building and writing and whatnot. And then people got to understand that it's books that Wheel of Time inspired Game of Thrones,
Sure.
But nowadays books, they are more fast paced. Mm-hmm. People, then people's attention spans, if they're not hooked by the first chapter with some exciting bit of information, then they're not going forward with the book.
Sure.
And that's just not how it was necessarily done back then. You would be interested. You'd find, you'd finish the first chapter and go, okay, I'm curious. This seems to be interesting. I'm going to keep going. But you weren't like, oh my God, I've got to read the next chapter, like they do nowadays. But I think for those of us who have put in the time to read the books, we've gotten the reward we deserve.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait till you get to the end. And I don't expect maybe a phone call as soon as you finish, but I expect at least an email. I want to talk to you about it. But one thing that I've always found fascinating, and for the Wheel of Time book diehards, please forgive me because I might mangle a little bit of this information. But I remember hearing multiple times, various sources, that with Eye of the World, when Robert Jordan was writing it, the publisher had a lot of hand in steering that. They kept throwing out a lot of suggestions. They wanted it to go in a certain direction. It does get a lot of Tolkien comparisons, and rightfully so. When you take that story, you compare it to Lord of the Rings, you look at them, a ton of similarities there. But I think it's worth noting that the publisher had a direct hand in a lot of those similarities. It was very intentional and is intentionally driven. And from there, you do see the story use that like a launch pad to go in a really different direction than anything with Lord of the Rings. But even from a publishing standpoint, I think it's effective to start in a place that people are familiar with and then go to a place that's completely uncharted terrain. It's a long series. It's an undertaking. It took me most of a year to get through, and I was diligently listening to those audiobooks. But you're absolutely right. The payoff, the reward is absolutely incredible. And I actually heard that Robert Jordan wrote the ending before he really wrote anything else.
Yeah.
And you'll get, if you listen to the audiobooks, you'll get to a chapter that's over 8 hours long.
Oh, yeah.
And even though that book came out after he passed, he wrote that full-fledged, and it's so good. So,
yeah. I don't know when I'm going to finish it because I started book 3 a while back, and then I ended up taking a break because I'm listening to, I'm almost done with it. It's called Dope Panic, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a Neil Gaiman. Book. No, Neil. It's about Douglas Adams and Neil Gaiman wrote it. It's a fairly old book, but it's been added to throughout the years. So this is like the 5th version or something. And I'm listening to it, and Simon Jones, who played Arthur Dent in the TV show, is reading it. It's really good. And of course now I'm like, I want to read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So again,
it's so good. It's one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look that up. I'm actually going to check that out. For some reason, I was thinking that was maybe like the 5th book, or there was a couple stragglers that came.
Yeah, Douglas Adams wrote 5 of them, and then Ian Colfer, who wrote the Artemis Fowl books.
Yeah,
he wrote a 6th book after Douglas Adams had passed. He got I think somebody involved gave him the thumbs up, but he wrote a book called And Another Thing or something like that. And I remember it being pretty good, but
wonderful.
Yeah, so instead of I was like, well, now I want to listen to Hitchhikers, and then I thought, no, actually I want to read it. So I'm reading Hitchhikers, and then as soon as I'm done with this Dope Panic book, which I think I've only got about 30 minutes left, then I'm going to jump back into book 3 of the Wheel of Time, and I think I'm just gonna do that. Every time I finish a Wheel of Time book, I'm going to listen to a biography. You know, I've got Dave Grohl's biography in my queue, so when I finish book 3, I'm gonna listen to Dave Grohl's biography.
Very nice.
We'll go from there, because I think as much as I love the Wheel of Time, if I do nothing but listen to the Wheel of Time for the next year, it might drive me a little crazy.
Well, it's a slow burn anyway. You know, it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
It's a really long series. That makes complete sense. Honestly, that's a good way to do it.
And I only have about 20 to 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week to listen to it. That's when I'm taking my kids to school and picking them back up. So
fair enough. I started playing grindy video games so I could actually listen to audiobooks while I'm playing them.
Yeah. I try to listen when I'm working, because a lot of the stuff I do is, putting together reports and building spreadsheets and stuff like that. But I find that I can't, even just doing something as mind numbing as putting a spreadsheet together. I find I can't concentrate on the book, and I realize that 20 minutes has gone by and I have no idea how we got to where we are at this point. So I can pay perfect attention when I'm driving in the car, but that's about it.
That makes sense. I'm the same way, but the opposite side of the coin, in that I would pay more attention to the book. So all of my reports that I'm doing is, this is a low concern of fraud, the client. Oh my God, can you believe Egwene just did that? It wouldn't go well.
It's funny, when I was watching these first 3 episodes again, there's a moment where Rand and Egwene are arguing. It's after they've left, and Rand is all upset because Egwene is going to be a wisdom, and then she might be an Aes Sedai. Oh, you're leaving me out of your life, and and they're fighting at one point, and I'm just like, I don't like all this fighting from them. And then it just hit me. There are a number of scenes in that first book where they are fighting so much that like Lan and Moraine have to get on them for being so loud, because they're just shouting at each other.
Totally.
And stuff like that I forget. And then when it hits me as I'm watching the show, it's like, they're touching on the right things here.
They hit it. They really hit it. Not just do the actors and actresses absolutely nail their portrayals of the characters, in my opinion, but I do think, maybe you could critique certain little bits of dialogue, the overall just presentation of those characters is pretty perfect to the core of those characters. I feel like, there's a lot of scenes that aren't in the books that we see, but sometimes it's almost like seeing, the scenes that were left out of the books. While we were reading about, this character, all of a sudden, while Edmund's field is burning, you have Nynaeve screaming at a trolley, pulling her belt knife. That's completely on brand for Nynaeve. That's who she is. All of those were just so good. Just so good.
It may not have happened in the book, but you could totally see the character doing it.
Absolutely. Exactly.
So what are your predictions for season 2? What are your predictions and what do you want to see?
My predictions and what do I want to see? Well, those are probably going to line up all together. I've already thrown a few out there. I do think, and it's already been confirmed in the interview with not just, I think, are we going to see, Matt's third story arc? I think we're going to see the return of Tom. I think they're going to leave Tarvalon, together there. Put that one with Kieran there. But I think we're going to see the Red Aja become involved, and it's probably going to happen in the first episode or two. I think we're going to see Matt fully healed. I know that was a sticking point with a lot of, real avid book readers in the first season. Moraine's not powerful enough to completely heal this dagger from him and all this. I don't think he's completely healed. I think that's part of something that's going to come into play real early on. And then because he's involved with the Red Aja, they healed him. Tom's going to bust him out. Tom has feelings about that. Yeah. He's still around. He knows Matt, and that provides that perfect springboard there. I think in the second season, we'll see more Aiel, and that's going to be exciting because we're going to have that gradual shift into the third, which I feel like is going to be very Aiel heavy. I do think we're going to see more of the Forsaken. I think we might see Ishi again, which we haven't talked about it, but, right there, I don't have to say anything about spoilers at this point, but right there at the very last episode, him and Ishmael, if you notice right before that flash of light, I don't think it's balefire, but I don't know. It cracked the Cullen door, right? So maybe it is, but you notice him smirk right before. It's not that he is distressed about what's happening, and then it cracks that seal, and then there's even that little bit of monologue while Rand is out, and he's speaking to Moraine, and he's, you don't know what he's doing right now. Is it to help me or to hurt me? I really do think Rand was tricked into that. I think he's still around. I think we're going to see that he's still around. So I do think we're going to see more Forsaken. And as mentioned, I think we're going to see both the Stone of Tyr and we're going to see Tommen's Head. And I'm kind of the opinion, and this is maybe the farthest reach, I'm of the opinion that they'll be flipped. I think we're going to see the Stone of Tyr before we see Tommen's Head. Yeah. Honestly, because it would make sense for Rand to have, the actual blade and everything when he's going in there. And I don't know, because one thing with the 8th episode they did as well is, a lot of the things that Rand was doing at the very end of Eye of the World, they divided between the different characters. And Rafe has even stated that was intentionally one to make it more of an ensemble piece. He felt that the series as a whole really does become more of an ensemble piece with Eye of the World, maybe the first few books being a little bit more Rand-centric. And while I do feel like it pulls a little bit of emphasis away from the Dragon Reborn, because there is this whole buildup of, who is the Dragon Reborn, and the underlying unspoken question of why do we care, right? How powerful is he? And so by not having him do all these crazy feats, we're pulling a little bit away from that. But I do still believe in the ensemble piece thought, and I do believe that. So how much is still going to be Rand? Or, instead of all of Tommen's Head being Rand, now is it going to be Egwene breaking free of the Shanshan and her, actually doing a lot of that. So I think that will be an element as well. But those are all my season 2 predictions. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, because it makes sense, because Perrin was there when the horn was stolen by Padden Fane. Yes. Maybe he's the one that goes with the group to go get the horn, while Moraine convinces Rand that he has to go to the Stone of Tyr. Mm-hmm. And then it's from, so Perrin's doing his thing to get the horn while Rand is doing his thing at the Stone of Tyr. And then they meet up on Tommen's Head,
Exactly. Or, something that even just occurred to me, the tie of the dagger, and the fact that Anfane has the dagger, the fact that Matt, had the dagger, and maybe he's not fully cured at the beginning of season 2, but maybe that pull is what drives him towards Padden Fane in some way. That's another avenue that he could reclaim the Horn of Valir and still use the Horn of Valir at the end of season 2. So those are also things that could happen.
Yeah. Something you mentioned, the Red Alja, and that got me thinking something I think that they did in the series that in the season that I don't think they really did in the books was they kind of more clarified who the Red Alja are. Because in the books, I always got the sense that their main purpose was, hating men and hunting down men who could channel, and that's it. That was their purpose. But in the series, they're almost like internal affairs for the Aes Sedai. There's even one of the Wheel of Time Origins animated shorts kind of refers to them as their job is to ensure that nobody is abusing the one power. That's whether it's men or women. They don't, so it's not just that they're there to hunt down men who can channel. If you're an Aes Sedai and you're abusing your power, then they're going to come after you too. So I found that kind of interesting.
Absolutely. And, that brings me right back to that 5th to 6th episode. Maybe it's the 6th, but, Leandrin, oh my God, such an amazing job portraying that character. And I mean, you hate her so bad. I mean, you really do. But that scene with Moraine shutting her down, I almost had to rewind that on the spot. If I wasn't watching it with my wife, I would have. I know my wife probably wouldn't have stood for it, but I was like, oh my God, it was so good. Just the whole thing. I really do think they've done a good job of kind of explaining the Ashes as it went without it being too much exposition. Yep. And that's been great. Even down to Leandrin's little monologue with Nynaeve, like, oh, is that what you think? Well, and really re-emphasized even with Moraine's threat, just kind of, hey, I know about that guy you're seeing. I know what your sisters will do to him. Never talk about this again. Like, it was so cold. It was perfect. Yeah. Went right back to planning their day with Lan. I loved it. Yeah. So good.
Yeah. I really enjoy it. The second season can't come out sooner, but I'll wait. There's all kinds of other crap on TV to watch. There's so much stuff out there. Let me just ask you this. Who was your favorite character from the show?
That is a tough question. There's a lot of characters I really liked. Matt, well established by now, is my favorite book character. Not my favorite show character, and I really enjoyed him in the show. You did point out quite accurately Tom doesn't have a lot of screen time. I think Tom is right up there. I think his lack of screen time maybe prevents him from being my number one, but he's real close. He's real close. For me personally, I think I'm going to have to go with Nynaeve for the first season. Just really nails that character, and just, it's just so perfect. Really so perfect.
When I think it's the end of episode 2, it's after they leave Shadar Logoth, and Lan is there with Moraine, who's unconscious, and then Nynaeve suddenly just is there with the sword to his throat. Like, tell me where they are now or I'll kill you. And then the next episode opens up and she's still like that. Yeah. And Lan says something to the effect of, I know and you know that you're not going to do anything with that sword. And then she tries to stab him. And of course, he doesn't allow it, and he knocks the sword out of her hand or whatever. But he goes, you just tried to kill me.
Exactly.
And he's almost like surprised and yet amused at the same time.
Yes.
Really enjoyed that. There was something else I was going to bring up. Oh, I did find it odd in that first episode. There's a moment where they're cleaning up the wine spring inn. They're putting the dishes away. Egwene, Rand, Tam, Egwene's parents are there. And then at one point, Egwene's mom is just like, Rand, Egwene, why don't you just put the rest of the dishes away? And then they all leave. And then Rand and Egwene just have sex right there in the common room of the wine spring inn. Of course, they don't show it. It's all happens off camera, but still, it's almost like the mom was like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We're going to leave you two alone. I found that really I did find that a little weird.
The parents everybody wishes they had as a teenager.
Right. and I know that in the books there was a lot of conversation about. I know Rand had talked about once Egwene's mom, when I was a kid, I kind of once Egwene's mom noticed me noticing Egwene, she kind of made it her goal in life to work with Tam to get the two of us together. It's like, so that's kind of there with that scene, but still it was really kind of weird. And cause you can't, if that wasn't her purpose, if it was really like me and, my old man and Tam, we're going to go do some drinking, so we're going to let you guys finish cleaning this up. Cause we don't want to do that. That's why we have kids to to do this kind of stuff for us, you know?
Sure.
So we're just going to leave you two alone. If that was the fact, then Rand and Egwene are pretty brave to just be like, we're just going to do it right here in the middle of the freaking common room. And they had, because when it comes back to them afterwards, they got like a blanket laid over a table or something. You know, it's not like just one of those, let's just quickly do it before they come back. They set the mood. They made a bed. They did all that stuff. And that just might be how it is in the Two Rivers.
That's how they roll. Evansfield?
I think the only other thing I wanted to point out is how in the book, it was very much, you didn't say the word dragon. You just didn't. If anybody heard you mention the dragon, you know, you could have a dragon's fang carved on your door, or somebody would tell the White Cloaks or something. But they're in the middle of towns and stuff, and they're very free with, well, what if I'm the dragon reborn? You could be the dragon reborn. And they don't seem to, even the characters in who, you know, in the books didn't even want to think about it. Mm-hmm. You know, Rand and Matt and Perrin, they didn't want to think about anybody who can channel. And they just seem to be really, there's the scene in the first episode where everybody's really nervous about Moiraine when she shows up at the end. But then after that, it's like hanging out with somebody who can channel. You know, it's like no big deal. They don't really give it that fear that everybody seemed to have who didn't grow up, because they were like, you know, they're back home country folk who mistrust that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I felt that was a different choice. They just didn't seem to care too much after a while.
Sure. Yeah. There was a tonal shift. There was, but there was still the elements of mistrust of Aes Sedai. It just wasn't, you know, overbearing, Nynaeve, who just distrusts strangers. Let's be honest. But I think she's the first person that kind of, hey, we're all going to be better off once she's gone, you know, kind of thing. It introduces that, and you get a little bit of it from Tom. But overall, it seems like most people just they know Aes Sedai, they more revere them, you know, they know they're powerful, and that's about it. And that's maybe not the same as the books, but that still feels like in the spirit pretty on par. I don't know if continuity is the right, you know, word to reference here. But when it comes to references with the dragon, you know, there are a couple scenes as well that pop in memory where, you know, Moiraine gives that sharp look to curtail from saying a certain thing. Like when Rand and Moiraine are talking right after, you know, she heals Matt, you know, she kind of stops him short from saying specific words right there on that balcony. So there are like little bits of that, but there are other moments, you're right, where they're much more free, kind of out in the open. Like, I can't be the dragon, you know, and all this, and saying these sorts of really incriminating things normally. So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think they were kind of wanting to leave all the most of the mistrust and the hate to the White Cloaks.
Sure.
That's, you know, maybe that's what separates the White Cloaks from other people. I mean, I guess they did have that moment on Terran Ferry where when Land cuts the ropes of the ferry, and the guy's like, I need to get back to my family. And finally he's like, the White Cloaks are right about you, Aes Sedai, you know? And so, yeah.
Yes. I'm glad they included that too. And I'm glad it was as brutal as it was.
It was.
Because, you know, it was hard to watch in a certain way, but it really paints that picture of Moiraine, and it's really at all costs picture, which it should be for her character, you know. Just like, hey, you know, I will kill them before I let them go to the Dark One. That's totally Moiraine. That's her MO. So
I think the thing I would have liked for them to have clarified in that situation, though, was when he mentions my family is back there, are they in that freaking hut right there where he was sitting out in front of, or are they back? I'm assuming they're back in the town.
Sure.
And that's just his hut when he's on the job. That's where they hang out. Because I would like to think that if he's got a wife and kids in that hut, she would have taken them. She wouldn't have just left them behind, knowing that there's a whole horde of Trollocs, because there were a crap ton of Trollocs back there, you know. And so when at one point when he goes, but my family's back there, I'm like, oh my God, are they in that hut? Because they're surrounded by freaking Trollocs right now. And so hopefully that wasn't the case, but.
Oh man, I'd be under the bed so fast. I mean, the bed might be in the air. I'm kind of a large person, but I would be under it.
I was really happy with the, like we said, the Trollocs looked good except for certain moments.
Yeah.
And I hope that their budget grows as the seasons go on. Because there even the moments that weren't CGI, there were moments when, like, as I was watching the first episode again and Lan was fighting some Trollocs, it's like, that's totally a guy in a furry suit. You could just,
Sure. Sure.
you lose it for a moment and then you come
Sure.
right back into it. And,
Yeah.
but still, I think that, the first episode to me, I don't know about you, but when I watched that first episode, I had this giant smile on my face
Oh, yeah.
the whole time. It's like, I'm glad they didn't follow the book, because if we only saw what was in the book, then we only saw the Trollocs at the farm and then saw what happened afterward at in Emmons Field. But we got to see Lan and Moraine throw down. That was really cool.
Exactly.
And, just looking forward to more of that.
You know, as a book reader, I think the perspective I've adopted most is, after so many years of being a fan of the Wheel of Time, it's so exciting to have new content to go into. And sure, it's a story we've read, but the fact that they're deviating the way they are keeps it fresh for us as well. It's not a detriment at any level, in my opinion. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. It would not have been the same if it just focused on Rand, and Tam at the farmhouse. I'm not saying that wasn't exciting in the books, but visually, from a watcher standpoint, it was so much better to watch Emmons Field.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? Most of that episode would be made up of him in the freaking woods in the middle of the night, dragging Tam through the woods as he's like, oh, we found the child in the snow. And, it's like that visually, that would have been pretty boring.
Absolutely.
And to take it back to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, he wrote that as a radio show first.
Oh, interesting.
It was a radio show for the BBC, and then he wrote a book, and he made changes when he wrote the book. And then they did a TV show, and he made changes again. And then they did the movie, and changed it from the radio show to the book to the TV show to the movie. It's like some of the basic elements are all there, but they're just all completely different things. And, I think we talked about that last time. It's like there's things that you can do in a book that you can't do on TV. It just doesn't work. And there's like the internal monologue, the internal dialogue and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And there's stuff that you can do on TV that doesn't necessarily work in a book. And so things are going to have to change. I think people weren't expecting stuff like Perrin to have a wife, Again, when he first said that in that episode, I mean, Perrin's married, and I'm like, that's a weird joke. I don't understand why that's supposed to be funny. Is that a dig? And then, holy crap, he is married. I almost had to stop the episode and sit there and just get used to that for a second. Perrin being married when the show started. But
any of those three characters got married, though, Perrin would be the first of the three boys to get married. And, to piggyback off what you were saying, with the different mediums and how storytelling would be different across all of them. How weird would it have been from a book standpoint if they revealed the dragon the way they did in the show, And the way they did in the show was so perfect for a show. I actually really enjoyed in episode 7 when they went into the whole, Rand revealing that he knows he's the Dragon Reborn. Yep. It's not something that he realizes. It's okay, we're going to go back and we're actually going to, the scenes we didn't show you of him helping Tam through the woods and Tam having this fever dream and all these little elements that you think, okay, they're just going to leave this stuff out. No, we're going to include little bits of that. And that was just wonderful, in my opinion, to go back.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. They did go back to that. And then it tied into the flashback at the beginning of the episode with the Aiel and everything. And, the moment when he was in that room in the town where they met Tom, when he was in that room with the woman who turned out to be a dark fiend, a dark friend, and he's trying to get out the door and she's like, nobody can break that door down. It's steel and blah, blah, blah. And then he does. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, that's the moment he first, I caught that. That was the moment he first used his power. They don't make any big deal out of it. They don't try to emphasize it. It just happened.
Exactly.
But I'm like, it's almost played off as he got lucky.
Yeah.
But when they were in the ways and the Mashadar was creeping up on him and you think Egwene is the one that through the power and knocked, and then it's revealed that was actually Rand. That actually blew my mind. It's like, oh, that's cool. That was Rand. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes, that was so good.
What did you think of the Ways?
I liked the Ways. I liked the Ways more than I thought I was going to at the end of episode 6. If I'm being honest, that was the one thing, by episode 6, you had the first 3 episodes drop all at once, and then we're going to a weekly thing. So, when I watched episode 6 and I saw that first little intro of the Ways, I was actually worried. I'm going to be honest. The whole next week, I was like, oh man, I don't know if the Ways look a little cheap. I'm not feeling it. By the time we actually got to the Ways, I actually really enjoyed how they looked. I thought it looked really cool. Just like the flashes of light over this weird geometrical, almost looking kind of pillars of stone and bridges. And I thought Mashador looked pretty good, honestly. I don't want to say particularly given the CGI on the rest of the show, but I thought it was one of the better done things in that regard. So I actually really enjoyed all of that. I thought it was quick. I would say that's the only downside is man, that was just like a 5-minute burst. Yeah. And I expected something a lot longer. So
I honestly was expecting the entire episode. I was worried. I was expecting the entire episode would be, because it was I think the episode was even called The Ways or Into the Ways or something like that.
Yes.
So I expected the entire episode to be fully with, they'd start the episode out going in, and then the episode would end with them leaving.
Yes.
So while I was worried about that, there was a part of me that's like, that's going to get boring after a while. I want to see them doing more stuff.
Yeah.
But then to only have that small moment, it's like, I didn't want it to be a full episode, but I also didn't want it to be that short. They could have been at least half the episode or something, but they,
agree.
They condensed a lot of things to get to where they needed to get, and I can forgive them.
Oh, absolutely. When you think about it, I guess from a visual storytelling standpoint, The Ways is a section where you could do some really fun and amazing things, but also visually, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot. You'd be able to play off that minimalistic aspect and maybe be able to get, and there was some really cool shots in there, some top down shots. You see their torches and it's just black all around them, and mentally when I picture The Ways and I'm thinking about the books, that's absolutely what I picture, so those were all really, really cool. Just like Shadar Logoth, honestly, it felt, Shadar Logoth felt actually longer than The Ways, but certain elements of it, like Matt grabbing that dagger, felt light speed. And The Ways kind of followed suit, kind of makes sense, I guess, in the context of the story, and getting to Faldera I wasn't actually expecting that in that episode, so seeing all of that really blew me away. It was so good. So, what did you think of the Blight?
I was hoping for more from the Blight.
Okay.
I was hoping to see, I wasn't expecting what we got in the book, especially knowing before they got into the Blight that it was just going to be Moraine and Rand. Mm-hmm. But in the book, there were creatures in there, like the giant worm and some of the weird monsters that was in there. I was kind of hoping for some of that, but I don't know. I could see people watching that part and comparing it to like the Fangorn forest in freaking Lord of the Rings or something.
Sure.
But again, it's like they take certain elements. Like we've got to show these certain things. We got to show the Ways, got to show the Blight, but we don't have a lot of time, and the budget's not as big as if we were doing a major movie or anything. So we gotta show it, get out of it, and get to where we're going to go. Because the main part is him in the eye of the world. That's the crux. That's where we got to be.
Sure.
So, I wasn't disappointed. I kind of was. I wanted to see some of the monsters, but I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I was, like you said, though, the whole thing with the Aes Sedai at the end, or the women who could channel linking up, and then each one burning out individually is there.
Yeah.
It for me, it was almost like one of those, what's it called? A Deus Ex Machina, where they, here's all these freaking Trollocs coming. We can either try to spend some money to throw a bunch of soldiers at them and have it just an awesome giant battle.
Yeah.
More than just some dudes shooting crossbow bolts at it from behind a wall.
Sure.
Or we can just have these women channelers just kill them all really quick. And
sure.
But what are you going to do? I think it's just going to get bigger and better. Most TV shows are like that, though. It's you start out kind of small, and for the eye of the world, that season would be, even though they had multiple locations. We saw Emmonsfield, we saw frickin' Tarvalon, we saw Fall Dara, we saw the Blight. They were all over the place there, really.
Sure.
They didn't go to all the places they did in that first book, but like you said, the dude said budgetary, they really couldn't.
Sure.
But typically, if whatever you see in a first season is going to get bigger in the second season. So
absolutely,
hopefully that's what we get here. We see more locations. We see more. We'll see a Drakkar in the next one. That would be pretty awesome, or a Gray Man or something. That would be pretty cool.
Absolutely. I'm hoping to see a lot more out of it. And, I've seen it is doing really well. It got number one out of all TV, several weeks in a row. I want to say one of them was the Nielsen rating, but some other ratings there. So that was doing really, really well. And I just caught news today, actually, that, New York Times bestseller list, number one, Eye of the World. So if you are out there listening, if you didn't like the show on any level, if you're just hating everything we're saying right now, the book you love is number one, again, after 2 decades or more. So I feel like it's very positive in the universe of Wheel of Time, no matter how you feel about the show.
Yeah, we're going to get, at the end of the day, when the show is fine, when it's over, it is going to be its own thing, separate from the books. And it'll be something that I would like to think that Wheel of Time fans can will say, well, I like the book better than the show, or I like the show better than the book. It's going to go either way. But you're going to have two completely separate things that have a lot of the same story elements, but you can enjoy them both separately for what they are and have fun either way. And I think we talked about it last time. Anybody going into this thinking that they're going to get a visual representation of the book, they don't understand how TV shows and movies are made, because you just can't do that. It would be, oh my God, how many episodes would they have to make just to do the first book? I mean, some of that would be so boring to see on TV.
It would be a little rough. Yeah.
And while the pacing was fast, I think they could have done a little better than that. I think it was a great first season, and I truly believe we're just going to get bigger and better stuff going forward.
Agreed. It's somebody that, I work on my own, form and contribution of art. If I waited to release the perfect album before I ever released an album, I would have never released an album. Yep. So, I think they did really, really great for a first season. I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I'll even go, after this conversation, I'll say I loved it. Yeah, absolutely. Little nitpicks, but I wouldn't feel like I really watched it fully, and digested it fully if I didn't. But I absolutely think it's going to get bigger and better as it goes. And honestly, I'm wondering if, I don't want to say we're going to see less changes, but just from some of the things that Rafe has said, it moves more into an ensemble piece. What he's always wanted was to be an ensemble piece, these sorts of things. I think some of the changes they instilled in this first season will make more sense as the seasons go on. And I think it will flow more naturally into what we're actually already used to as book readers. So, yeah. All right.
Well, I think this is a good place to wrap up the episode.
Cool.
I really enjoyed having you on. You've been on 2 episodes now, and I would love to have you on more. I really do enjoy talking to you.
Likewise.
Maybe we can get Michael Kill to watch the series at some point. I don't know.
Maybe. Before we wrap up, one last thing. You mentioned it earlier. It made me think of it, so I wanted to throw it out there. I did, when the first 3 episodes dropped, I did go up to Michael's, for the weekend. We kicked it. Me, him, his wife, actually Andy and Slappy, who were on Servants of All from Wheel of Rhyme. We all sat down. We watched the first 3 episodes. It's kind of like a celebration weekend. 1 of the show coming out, 2 for Wheel of Rhyme, just, all encompassing. And, those are the only 3 they've watched, because they sat down and rewatched those 3 with the children after we left at that point and haven't finished it. But, in those first couple episodes, just watching the interaction between Lan and Nynaeve, and only those first 3 episodes, Michael turns, looks at the rest of us in the room and says, "Oh, they're going to have very angry sex, aren't they?" And that was just one, that's peak Michael, but just right off the cuff, without having to see any of those later episodes, he could already identify right at the beginning. Oh, okay. I can see this chemistry here. I think that speaks to the writing of the show. So let's throw that in there.
All right, dude. We should probably stop. My family keeps walking by and looking at me. It's like, we want to watch TV, Dad. Because I'm out in the middle of everything. So.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, I will let you relinquish the living room back.
My daughter's just over there listening to us. Probably. I don't know. She probably got her headphones on. My kids are on their phones all the time.
Gotcha.
You know the way they are.
Yes.
All right, dude. Good talking to you.
Always, Stephen. You have a good afternoon, so I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there you go, folks. That is the conclusion of what was a very long yet thoroughly enjoyable cyber sit-down with the scintillating, the stupendous, the super sweet Sulfur. I honestly just really enjoy talking to him. We've sat down now twice and had really nice long conversations. Both happen to be about the Wheel of Time, but still, really super nice guy. I wonder if he's into Supernatural. Anyway, that's your episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have any thoughts on the Wheel of Time, Sulfur, this particular episode, or Just Another Fanboy in general, send them to me now at justanotherfanboy@gmail.com, and I'll read them out on a future episode. I promise. Join me right back here tomorrow as we round out the week with one more JAF Classics episode in which the me from 2006 got himself a brand new microphone. Until then, my name is Steven, and I'm just another fanboy. Be nice to each other.
Bye-bye, Daddy.
Bye-bye, Daddy.
Good job.